Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and it's been a while, but I'll put some links to some videos I've put up about the possibility of Highway 24 running from Phoenix down to Tucson, right out there along at the edge of that field. And that is definitely not going to improve the view that we have out the back of our fifth-wheel trailer, the mountains and the fields. So anyway, we'll see what happens. But the good news is, the other day, I looked out and there was a fertilizer truck driving down our road. And then that usually means that they're going to be a liquid fertilizer, adding it to the sprinkler system. So here it is. The circle irrigation sprinkler is working. And that's good news, because that means they're going to do some more cutting. They're not tearing it down, and they won't be building a freeway here really soon anyway. So I thought that's really good news. And of course, I've got a previous video on how they were tearing down the pumps up there at the end of that little road, because I thought maybe they were just going to close it down. Well, anyway, so while we're watching this, it's pretty boring, so I'll tell you a story about when I was in high school, and I was active in Youth for Christ Club, and a bunch of us guys, we had our meeting Friday morning at 7:30 before school started. And a bunch of us guys decided that as soon as the meeting's over, instead of going to school, let's drive to the ocean. Now, this was up in Washington State, and even in the summertime when you drive to the ocean in Washington State on the beach, it's gray, cloudy, and windy. And that's how it was that day. As soon as we got out of our Youth for Christ meeting, we jumped in the car. Everybody else was going to class, and we took off for the ocean. So it took a couple hours to get there, and when we got there, it was cold and gray and windy. And so we got there and got out of the car and looked around, and what are we going to do now that we're here at the ocean? Because it was just, and in Washington you could at that time anyway, drive your car on the beach. So a couple guys got in the car and they said, we're going to go down the beach. So they drove down the beach and they disappeared in view, and we're standing around looking at what are we going to do now? So pretty soon here they come back, and man, they are really traveling fast. And it was a 1950 Ford, and if you look them up on Google, they were top heavy. So as they come around, they passed us up, and then they made a U-turn at a fairly high speed. By the way, the tide was out, and as they came around in their U-turn, I noticed that the inner wheels came off the ground just slightly. Now, at this point right here, this is probably the irrigation pump that they're using right now, because as you can see, there's a little irrigation canal running next to the bigger one there, and they can draw the water out of there and pump it out to the circular irrigation. I'm just guessing, but I think that's probably what they might be doing. So anyway, and that's good news, because they're trying to grow stuff and they're not going to tear it down right away. So anyway, they came back and those wheels came off the ground. I thought, man, you got to be careful. And the tide was out, and we had this big beach, so there was plenty of room. So then the two guys I was with, they decided, let's do it. So the other guys got out of the car, and we jumped in the car. And the guy whose parents owned the car was driving, and I was in the middle, and my buddy that I went to college with and we roomed together, he was on the right. And so we headed down the beach. And of course, there's nothing down the beach except a bunch of seagulls sitting on the beach. And so he just, oh, by the way, that truck up in the upper left-hand corner, we see those guys coming and going all the time, and they're from a dairy farm. And those black spots up there in the center of the screen, that's cow manure that they're dumping there. So we'll go take a look at that. And of course, that's good news. There's still fertilizing. So anyway, we're headed down the beach, and so the buddy that's driving the car, he decides he's going to run over a seagull. Well, and of course, they fly away just as you get there. So he starts going faster and faster, and we were up close to 100 miles an hour, and they kept flying away just before we got there, and they would slowly flap their wings, and we'd see them come over the right front fender or so, and then up over the windshield, and we could never hit them, and which was a good thing. But anyway, and so there was this one that was out closer to the edge of the water, so he's we're moving fast, and so he comes over there, and there's that seagull, and so he's gonna hit it for sure, and for sure he didn't. It came flying up over the front of the car, slowly flapping his wings, and that's when the guy driving the car noticed that a breaker had just crashed in front of us, and we went smack dab into salt water. And all we could see was gray because the water, we were going 100 miles an hour or close to that, and the water was just spraying all over the place. And so he panicked, and naturally the ocean was on our left, so he cranked the wheels to the right, and not much happened until finally they caught a hold of some sand. When they caught a hold of the sand, we made an immediate U-turn right there on the spot. We were facing the other direction, and the car was laying on its side. My buddy driving, he was on the bottom, I was in the middle, and my buddy that I went to college with, he was on top. And so now, and also that same wave, by the way, this is the cow manure that they're dumping there, and they'll be using that to fertilize the field with. And so that's good news, because that means they're not going to tear this place up for a while anyway. So anyway, the water comes around, the breaker comes on in around, and now we're laying on our left side, and there's 3 or 4 inches of water outside the front window splashing in as the breaker comes in. So we quickly decided we better get out of there. So my buddy on top of me, we're laying on our side all crunched together. He stands on my shoulder and reaches up and manages to get the doorknob turned the right direction, because when it's laying on the side over your head, it's a little confusing. So he gets the door, he opens it up, and he climbs himself out, and as soon as he gets out, I start to come up because I figure he's going to hold the door. Now, there's the water. They're irrigating that patch of field right there. They have to do it in sections, and so that's really good news, because they're irrigating, they're fertilizing, they're planning on using these fields for quite a while yet. So it doesn't look like there's going to be a freeway coming through anytime soon, and we get to keep our view. So anyway, my buddy, he's up on top of the car holding the door, and I start to climb up, and I didn't realize that he wasn't holding the door. He just decided to let it land on my head, which knocked me back down on the guy below me. And so then I crawled up, stood on his shoulders. He's laying on his side, by the way, and got the door open, and I held the door for him. And so got the door open, and I climbed out. I jumped off the car. He jumped off the car. And as it turns out, we had seen a shack along the beach as we were traveling so fast, and it had a Caterpillar tractor by it. And so we ran. It took forever, but we ran down. We found the guy that owned it and in the shack, and he came up, clickety-clickety-click with his Caterpillar tractor. And by the time he got there, water was halfway up on the car. But anyway, he was able to hook up a chain to it and pull it out of the water, and then even tip it over for us. And then after doing some battery cleaning and getting the horn to stop honking and a few things like that, we got the car to run, and we're able to drive home. There's more to this story than just getting the car to run and driving home, but I don't think I have time to tell you anymore. But anyway, so that was our trip to the ocean. And by the way, my mom wrote me a note that said I had gone to the ocean and I got excused. Those guys wrote their own notes and said they were homesick. and of course, the principal knew we all hung out together, and so they didn't get excused. So they got demerits or whatever. I don't remember now. But anyway, so it always pays to be honest. And so anyway, as I come in here and land this baby on the sidewalk, and there I am standing there, I want to say thank you for watching my videos, and God bless.